WWF Hasbro figures on today's special edition of Baseball King Collectibles. Hi everybody, welcome back to a special edition of Baseball King Collectibles. We are looking at some of the rarest of Hasbro figures from the WWF back in the early 90s. And these two are, you see who you got here, Randy Macho Man Savage and Andre the Giant. These are two of the rarest figures, and we have a collection of about, 75 or more that are signed. Okay, so this is part one, episode one, and here to take you along the way is the Baseball Prince. And here he comes to let you know what's going on and, explain everything, because, this is not my thing. I'm a baseball king, as you know, but the Baseball Prince will explain.
How's everybody doing? Just want to start everybody, take these off camera for 1 second, just show you guys exactly what I'm talking about here. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're my age, mid-30s, early 30s, 40s, you remember these figures. These came right after the big rubber LJN figures from the mid to late 80s. And this is when Hasbro took over in about 1991. As you see, they sized them down. They made them more playable. It was just a collection of figures that were just, for my childhood, extraordinary. This is the poster. This is all the figures loose. I just want to start off by showing you that. And as he said, yes, this is a unique Hasbro collection. There's 94 figures in the set, and I'm closing in on having a complete signed set. It's probably one of, a handful of collections in the world that have, this many signed Hasbros. And I'm going to break it down into series. This is series 1 we're going to start with today, and there's 11 series. Plus a tag team series. I'll do that separately, so it'll be really 12 parts. This is series, like I said, series 1, and I'll go over them, of course, one by one. So I started off with these two. The reason being is because this is a 12-figure set, and these are the only two in series 1 that I don't have signed. Before I get started with exactly what's in series 1, I just want to tell you a brief rundown of how I got into this. Obviously, I was born in '89. These came out in really the early '90s, and when I first got into it, I could tell you that I was too young to remember series 1, 2, 3, but I have some memories of series 5, series 6 in Toys R Us, and my dad picking them up for me, and then later in the mid '90s picking some up at garage sales. And in the late 90s, when eBay came around, they added some to my collection. Of course, at that point, now I'm 12, 13 years old. And it's not really cool to collect wrestling figures anymore in middle school and high school. So I put that to the back burner. And I really revisited wrestling figures in about 2015 after Hasbro, they made Jakks. And then Jakks took over. And then Jakks was done. And then Mattel took over. Mattel's still in line. And they still have the rights to the wrestling figures. They're the number one producer of wrestling figures. 2015, I picked up Mattel, and a couple years later, I see the Hasbros on eBay, and I think, well, these are really what I grew up with. This is really what I want to collect, but I didn't have a great job at that point, and they were, even then, a little bit pricey. I didn't even think about getting anything signed. Just having the figures, having them sealed, on card, obviously nostalgia, but I decided, let me just stick with Mattel's, and then about 3 or 4 years later in 2019, I said, let me pull the trigger. I bought my first one in December of 2019. It was Yokozuna and Lex Luger. I'll never forget it. They came sealed, of course, on card. Condition didn't even matter to me at that point. I got them pretty cheap. And then about a year after that, 2020, mid-2020, 2021, I started collecting them signed. And I probably had a full set unsigned, a year or two later. And then for me, at that point, it was, what do I do next? And the next challenge was, of course, like I said, getting them signed. So these are the first two. And again, these are the unsigned out of the 12. These are 2 out of the 12 that are unsigned. These I would love to have these 2 signed, of course. Macho Man died about 10 years ago. So there are figures of him that are certainly obtainable. I've seen Series 1 figures of him signed. Just have never been able to pull the trigger on one. I had one opportunity on one, and I unfortunately I passed on it. I haven't seen one since. Andre the Giant is one that I've never actually laid eyes on signed. Reason being is because this figure came out, as you see, in 1990, and if you look it up, I think he died in like 91, 92. And even though this is trademarked 1990, he probably didn't hit shelves until, late 90 or 91. So you had maybe 6 months or a year try to get Andre the Giant to sign this figure. Lived, in France, was declining health at that point. So for that reason, they are extremely rare. It would probably be valued at anywhere between 10 and 20,000 if it ever came to market. Maybe more than that. But again, I've never seen one. Now, in the last 2 or 3 years, the real reason why I got into this is because I saw a guy named Brian Myers. He's actually a wrestler. It was a wrestler in WWF. His name was his wrestling name is escaping me right now. But anyway, he was on a journey to collect these signed figures as well. And I said, well, that's pretty cool. I want to try to get into that as well. So he's what got me started. Him and Matt Cardona are big into the Hasbros, and they really they created a big platform that got people my age, like I said, and they're about my age as well, a little bit older, to get these kind of back in people wanting to collect them again. Obviously that's a trend. You want to collect what you grew up with, so that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, anyway, so these are the two. Again, Macho Man obtainable. I've never obviously got one. This is his unsigned one. And Andre the Giant, he's one of a few, and we'll go over into when I go into the other series of why this is probably the rarest. One of 4 that are considered to be impossible to get. So that leaves you with really 90 that are obtainable. And like I said, I have about 81 or 82. So it's a collection that's really kind of getting there. One last thing I want to touch on before we go and see the other 10 figures that are signed is they did re-releases. They had figures, the same exact figure where they'd have it on a blue card. Like for example, Tatanka came out in a series 5 or 6 on a blue card, and then came out in series 9 on a purple card. Same exact figure. So for mint on card collectors, because it's a different series and it's a different card back, we consider that needing to have both of those figures to have a complete collection. Whereas a loose collector, because it's the same exact figure, they might not feel that way. So for me, 94 is the complete set. Whereas a loose collector may say, because there's re-releases like Tatanka, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, they may say, well, really 90, 91 is a complete set. But no, for me, I'm a completionist. I got to have everything. And 94, okay? So let's move on, all right? Also, there's what's called mail-away figures. They came in bags. You got a catalog, and you mailed away from. Those are extremely rare. There's a Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, and Bret Hart, and a couple other ones that were sold as JCPenney exclusives. Those are through the roof. Again, these are not part of what I consider a complete set, but some people do. Anyway, so let's start with the easiest, I think, and the least valuable to obtain. And I'll try to give, maybe not necessarily what I paid for things, but maybe what I think they're valued at today currently. This is Brutus, the Barber Beefcake. And as you see, it is JSA authenticated. My father and I, we live about an hour and a half from the JSA, whatever you want to call it, headquarters, and we would bring everything there. He'd bring his celebrity and baseball autographs, and I'd bring my Hasbro figures, and we'd get everything authenticated. There's actually one in this series that is not yet. It's the most recent acquisition that I've made. But everything else that I have signed is absolutely authenticated. I unfortunately didn't get many of these in person. This particular one I did. Because, again, when I started the collection in 2020, most of these guys were deceased. I'm going to do my best to try to find comps on some of these on eBay. I could tell you that they're not out there. So for a lot of these, you're not going to be able to see any eBay comps or things like that because there's none on the market. There's none for sale. You couldn't buy it if you had all the money in the world, okay? You could not buy it if you had all the money in the world. They just don't exist, some of these figures. Again, this is one of the easy ones to get. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Series 1, he comes with a little shear. He was, back then they had gimmicks. Everyone had their own gimmick. He was the barber, literally. Okay? And this is signed in a purple paint pen. I like to try to, when I got these in person, I like to have a nice bold paint pen. But for the ones that, were deceased, I take what I can get at that point. A Sharpie with a bent card, it is what it is. What's that? Yeah. Yes. Okay. A couple of these I'm going to show you. I'm going to pop up on screen of people that I've actually met. I believe I do have a picture with Brutus somewhere, and if I do have it, of course, I will show that as well. Next is a tag team. Okay, they actually released Demolition as a tag team together and separately. The differences are, again, this is Series 1, Axe and Smash. They did a tag team series, and again, that will be part 12 tag teams with Crush and Smash. Okay, Axe was not a part of that tag team set. Reason being is because Axe, back in the, I guess, early to mid 90s, had a seafood allergy, and it became pretty serious. So they had Crush, who at the time was just had his own kind of gimmick. They made him part of Demolition, a third part of Demolition. So when Axe, who was had declining health, wasn't able to perform, they had a third guy in Crush. That tag team series, and I'm not going to give it away whether I have that one or not, is extremely hard to get signed because Crush died in, I believe, the late 90s, early 2000s. So there's actually 3 Crush figures, 2 by himself and 1 as a tag team. And again, super, super hard to get. These are pretty easy ones to get. Axe and Smash they do signings all the time. I actually met them in person. I got these myself. It'll come up again later on because Smash actually changed gimmicks later on and became the Repo Man, which of course I have signed as well. So we'll revisit Smash somewhere down the road. But again, Axe and Smash Series 1, both JSA authenticated, part of my collection. All right, let's go with. And I'm trying to put these in order of what I think is least rare to most rare. Of course, we'll save the big ones for last. Here, I could put both of these on screen at the same time, kind of mid as far as what I think rarity is. Just to touch on Axe and Smash value and Brutus value, I haven't done that yet. I'd say Brutus unsigned is probably about an $80 figure. Signed probably about $120ish. Where Axe and Smash unsigned a little pricey. They're a little bit harder to get in the condition I have them in. I would say Axe and Smash are going to be probably about the 150 unsigned and probably about 200 signed a piece. Here's Jake and Million Dollar Man. Okay, again, I'll turn them over. Both JSA authenticated. I did meet Million Dollar Man in person. I did not meet Jake. This one I purchased on eBay. This Ted in this condition, it's just about as mint as you can get. It's probably about a $200 to $250 figure. Signed, it adds a little bit of value, about $275, $300. And Jake in this condition, not as good, probably about $100 to $125 figure. Signed, again, probably in that 150 range. They go for, they add the value about $25 for an autograph. That's all they really are at these conventions. So it's not big value added on some of these autographs. Because again, they're readily available. Here's Akeem, the African Dream. He signs WWF. Again, JSA authenticated. For those of you who see that black piece of tape, if you know, you know. I'll go into that at a later date. And of course, 5 and up. You've probably seen a few others wrestling figures so far that are 5 and up. Again, I'll go into that on a different date. This Akeem I actually met in person as well. I do have a picture with Akeem, and I believe Axe and Smash as well. This figure, 5 and up with this piece of tape, believe it or not, unsigned, is probably about a $400 figure in this condition, maybe even closer to $500, and signed probably, again, like $550, right in that range. Okay, a couple left. Here is the last living signed figure. This is Hulk Hogan. I never met Hulk Hogan. He does a lot of signings in Florida. He has his own beach shop where you can go, you can mail it in, you can see him in person. He charges like $300. This figure unsigned in this condition is probably about $250. This is a Hulk Hogan and JSA dual authentication. And this sign is probably about a $400 figure. Really nice yellow paint pen. This is one of my favorites. This is probably my favorite figure. It's the most nostalgic for me. Hulk Hogan, Series 1. It's just a unique scan. The bear, the slam kind of style is really cool. And these next 3 are just absolutely unbelievable. I look at them sometimes, I pull them out, and I'm like, how do I have these? Okay, here is the Ultimate Warrior. Okay, Ultimate Warrior signed. All right, it's just incredible. Again, condition not as good. Blue Sharpie. You're gonna see with the older ones, you're not gonna see any paint pens. They didn't exist. Ultimate Warrior died about probably about 10 years ago at this point. No one was really getting these signed 10 years ago, even though he's probably, there are some of them out there. Nobody was really getting wrestling figures signed back when he was still alive. So it's still a super rare figure, much like the Macho Man. Nobody really started getting figures signed until maybe in the last 5 or so years. So, I mean, there were, obviously, this is how I got it. But not people weren't thinking that. They get photos, they get cards and things like that. So yeah, this is a JSA authentication right in the front. I didn't get this one authenticated myself. I like to put it on the bar scan, but yep, no big deal. So again, this is an unsigned figure in this condition, maybe about 150. Signed. If you offered me right now $3,000, I would turn you down. It's probably worth around that. But even if you offer me $5,000, I would turn this down. These are just so hard to get. I'd probably say it's worth though about $2,500, $3,000. Okay, here is the Big Boss Man. Okay, this is the one I don't have authenticated. I just got it recently, and I haven't made the rounds to JSA. This is my second to last one of this series. As you see, he signs bold in Sharpie, Big Boss Man. This is 100% authentic. I can guarantee that. He died in I think the late 2000s, just before 2010. It's just an incredible figure. There's a second Big Boss Man in Series 3. Again, I won't tell you whether I have it or not. We'll see. But again, just value-wise, I would say 3,000. Again, I would turn that down instantly. I wouldn't even think about it. To me, it's worth 4,000 or 5,000, but it's probably an open market. It goes for probably about 2,500, 3,000. And here's the one of the most rare in the whole set, and definitely the rarest in Series 1. This is Rick Rude, okay? Rick Rude died in the late 90s, early 2000s. He's been dead for 25 years. He probably was only alive for about 6 or 7 years when this figure came out. JSA authenticated, okay? It is personalized. It's the only one in my collection that's personalized, and it's the only one in my collection that is in Bic pen, okay? Everything else is Sharpie or paint pen, but again, and it's all beat up. You can't get it. It doesn't matter. You could have all the money in the world. You're not getting a nicer version of this. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 others that exist, and just to have his signature on this card is as rare as they come. Again, this is at least a $3,000 or $4,000 figure easily. Okay, and again, I would turn you down instantly. This is probably the most expensive series that I have because of the Big Boss Man, Rick Rude, and Ultimate Warrior. There's other figures out there that are in the same price point, but to have 3 in one set is just incredible. Hopefully I add Macho Man one day, and that's obtainable. And if I ever get my hands on Andre the Giant, I would certainly have to ask my dad for a $20,000 loan, and he would have no choice but to give it to me for an Andre the Giant signed figure. Or to get a second job, one of the two. So that's really it. That's Series 1. This is, again, my prized possessions. We'll see Series 2 coming up soon. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you stick around with me. Baseball King Collectibles, please subscribe, please like, please comment. Tell me which one is your favorite. I'm going to give you my favorite out of this set. It's got to be between these two, Big Boss Man and Rick Rude, just because of the rarity. Ultimate Warrior being a close, second or third, whether you want to say these are tied or not. Have a nice day. Come back soon. Thank you.
Time.